Before that, I must say that it is also important for you to remember the definitions of the basic lesions. So, ulcers, vesicles, bulla, macules, papules, all these are important. So, sticking to our topic today, ulcer is the break in continuity of epithelium, which is caused by cell death. Vesicle is a sharply circumscribed, serous fluid-filled elevation up to 1 centimeter in diameter. And bulla is a sharply circumscribed, same kind, it's a big vesicle. So it is a serous fluid-filled elevation which is more than 1 centimeter in diameter. Coming to the classification, which is very, very important. The first classification that I'll be dealing with is the one given in Burkitt, the classic one. So here it has been all the lesions according to their clinical presentation. So whether the presentation is acute, chronic, recurrent, single ulcers, multiple, they have been classified into 4 categories. The first one is patient with acute multiple lesion. The examples are viral stomatitis, erythema multiforme, and so on, as you all know it. Second category is patient with recurrent oral ulcers. Now you must remember what is the difference between a recurrent and a chronic lesion. Now the patient will give you a history of the lesion persisting since a long time. But in recurrent lesion, there is a disease-free episode between 2 episodes of the lesion. Whereas chronic persists at the same time. So the recurrent lesion could happen at the same site or some other site, whereas chronic lesion will be persisting at the same site. So example of recurrent oral ulcers, all of you know recurrent aphthous stomatitis, Behçet's disease. Then the third category is patient with chronic multiple lesions. Some chronic lesions like pemphigus, pemphigoid, erosive and bullous lichen planus, they lie in this. Then patients with single ulcers. So deep fungal infections like histoplasmosis, chronic herpes simplex infection lie in this category. Now there's another classification which you can quote if you want those brownie points. And this is based on etiology. The detailed reference you can get from Regisi and Scuba, that is the textbook. Now they have divided these all lesions, what we talked about in the first classification, into 2 categories, ulcerative and vesiculobullous. In ulcerative lesions, they have further classified them according to etiology into reactive lesions, bacterial infections, fungal infections, immunological diseases, and ulcers related to the neoplasm. Whereas vesiculobullous lesion, they have divided into viral diseases, immunological diseases, and hereditary diseases. So sometimes the examiners might ask you this classification also, so you can read from the book mentioned below. Coming to the first and most frequently asked lesion is the acute viral stomatitis. Now the viral stomatitis and acute, so stomatitis, inflammation of mouth caused by virus, which is acute in presentation. If you remember and understand the meaning of the title, you will be able to write the clinical features. And that applies to all the lesions. But sometimes you cannot recall, try to correlate with the name of the lesion. So the most common viral lesions which affect the stoma or mouth are the primary herpes simplex infection, varicella zoster virus infection, and Coxsackie virus infection. Primary herpes simplex infection, which is also known as acute herpetic gingivostomatitis. I'm not going to read all the details. What are the points that you must remember? It is caused by herpes simplex virus 1. Most common in children from 6 months to 6 years of age. Children below 6 months of age are generally protected by maternal antibodies. The primary infection occurs during subsequent childhood. Very elderly patients and immunocompromised patients may also get infected by this. Transmission is through close personal contact. What are the symptoms and the signs? Any viral infection, you have to remember that characteristically they have prodromal symptoms. And most common prodromal symptoms are fever, nausea. Alright? In case of herpetic gingivostomatitis, symptoms also include painful mouth ulcers. The patient will complain of increased salivation and difficulty in eating and swallowing. We come to signs. Viral infections typically present in forms of vesicles. They are purely vesicular diseases. Alright? And these vesicles are very thin walled. So because of the movement of the oral mucosa, they rupture rapidly and they form shallow ulcers. Now these are surrounded by inflammation. There will be an inflammatory halo around it. Many a times these ulcers, shallow ulcers, they coalesce together and form large ulcers with ragged border. And they might have tissue tags. So here only I'll add that you also have to remember the difference between primary ulcers and secondary ulcers. So primary ulcers are the ulcers which are de novo, like traumatic ulcer. Secondary ulcers are the one which form from the pre-existing lesions, like in primary herpes simplex infection. So they always have a tissue tag present with it. Sometimes they twist it and ask it in a MCQ. What are the characteristic feature of acute marginal gingivitis? Most important is appearance of generalized acute marginal gingivitis. This is going to help you to differentiate it from other lesions. Okay? And it will be accompanied with fever and cervical lymphadenopathy. So here you can see this. How do we manage? Now this is a tip for you people. Management of any lesion, go back and see the pathophysiology and the symptoms. So our aim or any aim of any managed treatment is to either cure the pathophysiology or manage the signs. Now viral infections are self-limiting diseases. So here we can manage the symptoms. So remember, what are the symptoms? First, pain. So you can give topical anesthetic rinses. Patient gives history of fever. Antipyretic agents like paracetamol can be given. Patient is unable to eat and swallow. So maintenance of hydration, especially because the children get dehydrated very fast. So maintenance of hydration. And what is the physiology, pathophysiology? Viral infection. So you can use antiviral agents. So acyclovir, most commonly given antiviral agent, topically or systemically can be given in the doses that I have mentioned on the slide. 3% ointment or 15 milligram per kg 5 times daily for 7 days. It is available under the trade name of Zovirax. Coming to varicella zoster virus infection. Now when I was a student, I always used to get confused. Then how did I remember? First word in the varicella zoster is the primary infection. So primary infection in children is varicella or what we commonly call chickenpox. Now what happens, these viruses have an affinity for the neural ganglion. So once the remission of that episode happens, they like, the terrorists, they just go and get latent in spinal or cranial nerve ganglia and aram se baithte udhar. Whenever there's a reactivation could be because of different triggers. For example, it could be fever or it could be, immunocompromised state or anything. So the reactivation occurs and the secondary infection occurs in adults mostly, and that is herpes zoster or what we also call shingles. So I think it is clear with you that the primary infection is varicella, and what happens in the later state is the herpes zoster or shingles infection. What points you must remember about herpes zoster or shingles, which is very commonly asked, is that it is caused by reactivation, occurs in adults, both the genders are affected. Very characteristically, lesions are limited to the skin or mucosa, which are supplied by the affected nerve. In oral lesions, of course, the trigeminal nerve is involved. Sometimes the lesion may be missing, and you will see that the patient complains only the pain along the nerve. So this is called herpes sine herpes. Herpes ke bina herpes. So the lesion is not visible, but the patient complains of pain. The symptom consists of, since it is acute again, shooting pain, burning sensation, tenderness and paresthesia along the course of nerve, and very, very painful blisters on skin and mucosa, which later form a scab. So what are the signs? Now what I have marked in red, you have to remember. The distribution is limited to skin and mucosa, which is supplied by affected nerve, and they characteristically do not cross the midline. Alright? So oral lesions are similar to the herpes, but they will not cross the midline. So these two characteristic clinical features will help you in differentiating it from other acute lesions. Okay? And it heals in another 14 to 21 days, but it heals with scab formation. And the episodes are very extensive, and multiple dermatome are involved in immunocompromised patients or very elderly patients. Complications you have to remember. The most important and commonly asked complication is post-herpetic neuralgia. That is, after the remission also, the patient might complain of pain along the nerve. So that is herpetic neuralgia. Secondary bacterial infection can occur if on the ulcerations, and then paralysis of affected area. Ma'am has already covered Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, but I would like to emphasize it again. It has been asked many times. It is the herpes zoster infection of geniculate ganglion, which consists of Bell's palsy, unilateral vesicles of external ears, vesicles in oral mucosa. How do you manage? Again, apply the same logic. So pain, anesthetic rinses, analgesics, antiviral therapy can be given, but antiviral therapy is generally effective only if it is instituted between 3 days of appearance of rash. So you can give acyclovir again, 100 milligram tablet, 5 times daily for 10 days. To prevent secondary infection, you can give systemic antibiotic. Another catch is here, which many a times you will be asked. Now you all know steroids are contraindicated in viral infections because they decrease the immunity and it becomes fulminant. But systemic steroids for pain reduction and prevention of post-herpetic neuralgia. This is the only viral condition in which systemic steroids are used and are found to be effective. So many a times this may be asked in Viva. Coming to the next virus, that is Coxsackie. So Coxsackie infection, most important is herpangina. And what you have to remember the most is the differential diagnosis between herpangina and HSV. So herpetic gingival stomatitis. So the thing is that if you remember this table, you will be able to write the clinical features also of herpangina. So herpangina occurs in epidemics. Milder, smaller lesions are there. Lesions occur on the pharynx and the posterior part of the oral mucosa characteristically. Whereas in HSV, it affects the anterior portion of the mouth. Characteristically, HSV will have acute marginal gingivitis, which will be absent in herpangina. And histopathologically, HSV will show ballooning degeneration, multinucleated giant cell, and intranuclear intrusions known as Lipschutz bodies, which is not there in herpangina. So remember this table, it is very common.